for my third and final pick, the sixth overall of the Week 6 Sunday six pack presented by FanDuel. I am going with the New York Jets +7 at the Green Bay Packers, and I think the Jets match up well here. I know the Packers are kind of coming off a loss, and that's historically when Aaron Rodgers has been a cover machine. But I went back and looked, and so Aaron Rodgers is 40-21-1 against the spread, coming off a straight up loss, but he's only 6-5 against the spread when the number is 7 or more since 2015. So a lot, and the same thing when you look at him coming off against the spread loss, essentially 500 since 2015. So the market is kind of adjusted in these spots. Where he really crushes it is when he's, and it's like somewhere in the field goal-ish range, under a touchdown. But I like the way the Jets match up in this game because they're kind of like New Orleans. I think they should see some regression in the sack department. They are 4th in pressure rate this year, are the New York Jets. And they have achieved that despite blitzing at the 4th lowest rate. And you've probably heard me say this before when it comes to fading Aaron Rodgers. You want to get pressure without blitzing. This is why we used to love to fade him when he would play the San Francisco 49ers, by the way, who were coordinated by Robert Saleh, who's the Jets head coach now. So Saleh has come up with some really good game plans against Rodgers in the past. They held him to 104 yards on 33 attempts in a regular season game in 2019, a couple of picks, 3 sacks in a playoff game. But you have this D-line for the Jets with Quinnen Williams, Franklin Myers, Carl Lawson, all grading out as top 15 pass rushers. Sheldon Rankins, Bryce Huff grading out top 25 overall at their position. And then this Green Bay O-line still not, I think, back to where it was. But you also have to factor in that because there's no Adams, Rodgers has to hold the ball longer than he's had to in the past, or he's just throwing these like quick passes that are going nowhere. And the Jets actually have 2 really good outside corners as well with DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner. They're both in the in the top quartile in terms of grades, and they've been playing well. I mean, if you just watch, so it hasn't all come together yet in terms of the overall defensive metrics. I think we've talked about this under Saleh. They haven't been good, but I think this Jets team is pretty underrated on both sides of the ball. I think with this D-line, I think they could get pressure on Rodgers without having a blitz, and he's 5.5 yards an attempt under pressure, no touchdowns, 1 interception, a 51 passer rating, and a 22% sack rate does Aaron Rodgers have under pressure. So nobody, guys aren't getting open as fast. And then on the other side of the ball, Green Bay, as they usually are, year after year, they say they're going to fix it and they don't. The run defense, 30th in DVOA. And why is that important? Because the Jets have kind of transitioned to Breece Hall as their lead back now over Michael Carter. And Breece Hall is 7th in rushing DVOA. He's a significant upgrade over Carter, who still can, do some things, but Breece Hall, I think, is a special player, and they have talent at receiver. I mean, clearly more talent than the Giants had, and the Giants were kind of, getting whatever they wanted, crossing routes all day against this defense. So this defense doesn't scare me, and his offense doesn't scare me for the Packers. And so I'll take the 7, and I actually haven't put in I haven't bet it because I'm guessing we're going to get to 7.5. I see already some 7 minus 105s for the Jets. So I'm guessing we get to 7.5. Maybe we even get to 8. But I want at least a 7.5. But for the purposes of the show, the line is 7 on FanDuel right now. I'm taking it. This Packers team just does not scare me on either side of the ball anymore.
Yeah, I'm going to save this for the total. I have a play on this total here, but I will say, yeah, the Packers offense is broken. Their receivers can't get any separation. The offensive line isn't playing well. Like Bakhtiari he played like 1 drive in the second half of last week. I don't think they only had 3, but they were like rotating him in and out. But the most concerning thing is they just can't throw the ball downfield. There's nothing to really scare anybody. Rodgers last week throwing beyond 5 yards, 7 of 19. 7 of 19 against the Giants secondary that was missing Adoree Jackson. Their other starting corner was already on the IR. This isn't an elite Giants secondary, and they got shut out in the second half. Rodgers usually is good in these smash spots. Look, he's 42-22-1 against the spread off a loss, 30-16-1 against the spread off a loss away from home. 8-0 since 2019. But some of these, you have to take trends. Trends don't mean automatically is going to be a cover, and there's context to all these things, and that's why, some of these things with Brady haven't been working this year as much. That if the Packers in the past have always had an explosive offense. They had Devontae Adams. The offense just right now can't figure things out. So, but I'll save the rest of my analysis when we get to the total.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, about the trends, like I went back and looked because it's those trends essentially they're pretty much applying when he's a smaller favorite. Like when he's a favorite of a touchdown or more, they're all essentially 500. Like even Rodgers' career at Lambeau, 66, 35 and 3, 65%, 15 and 14 against the spread when it's over 6 since 2015. Like the market has adjusted and they're just inflating the lines now, in these spots where these smash spots for him. So yeah, I'm not really scared of Trent, but I mean, am I crazy? Like this Jets team, like irrespective of their opponent this week, this Jets team suddenly, like if Zach Wilson could just not be like the terrible Zach Wilson that he was as a rookie and be like this, like average-ish version of Zach Wilson, like this Jets team has some talent, like at a lot of spots that you want to have talent at receiver, cornerback. They might be getting a little healthier on the O-line. Their D-line is strong. Like I'm starting to like this Jets team. Hopefully Salah and you got the battle of the floors here too. So that should be interesting. But
the Jets. You have to keep in mind the Jets have 3 wins over Trubisky.
Yeah, I know.
Miraculous fashion.
Yeah.
Brissett in miraculous fashion, and then against Skylar Thompson. And last week Zach Wilson looked good, but I mean you had that game just kind of snowballed on Thompson, and the Dolphins corners were out. I'm still not a buyer, but in Wilson. But if he could take it show consistently that he's improved, then yeah, it's like, wow, because it's just the defense. The corners are really good, and Sauce Gardner's who I'm the head of his fan club. He's better than I thought he'd be right away. It usually takes time for rookies. Reed has been really good. So the Jets will be able to do a lot of things in this particular, every week, but in this particular matchup with corners you can trust out on islands. And you can especially do that here against the Packers receiving room where it's we both are fans of Romeo Doubs, but he's just a rookie. And he can't be your main go-to guy you're counting on to get separation. Christian Watson has been a mess. I think he's hurt now. And the post-game interview, it's like Randall Cobb saying, "I'm not a nursing patient." That's bad if that's the offense, is like Randall Cobb convincing everyone that he's not and deserves to be put in a nursing home.
He looks good though. I'm not.
I know he's the best. He's the best receiver, but he's telling everyone, he's like, "Yo, I'm not in a nursing home." But Randall Cobb should not be your go-to guy in 2022. He should be your third guy. But he has looked good without him. Man, if he pulls a hammy or something.
You know what this reminds me of? This Packers team. Remember, I think it was the first year you and I did the pod together. I think it was 2019, where the Packers were every week it would be a 3-point win or a 1-point win. And they ended up winning 13 games. But it was we just kept saying yo, this team's luck is going to run out sometime. This team's luck. It seems like that same kind of team, except their luck is actually running out in a lot of these games now. It's like Rodgers throwing pick sixes, barely beating Bailey Zappi, getting imagine if Brian Daboll had the Jets roster.